Year of our Lord 1547. The last of the spring frost clung stubbornly to the thatched rooftops of Millvale as Olivia Rose made her way through the village square, her threadbare woolen dress offering little protection against the biting morning air. Though only 22 summers old, her sapphire eyes carried the weight of someone who had witnessed a lifetime of hardship. Her golden blonde hair, partially hidden beneath a simple linen cap, caught what little sunlight broke through the overcast sky. Despite her impoverished circumstances, Olivia's natural beauty turned heads as she passed. High cheekbones, full lips, and a slender figure that even her worn garments could not conceal. The neckline of her dress, originally modest but now stretched and frayed from years of wear, dipped lower than was proper, drawing unwanted attention to her collarbone and the gentle curves beneath. With each step, Olivia clutched tightly to the small hand of her son, Thomas, a spirited boy of 5 years whose dark curls and inquisitive brown eyes were the image of his father, her beloved husband Robert, taken by the sweating sickness just 2 winters past. In her other hand, she carried a letter that had arrived the previous day, bearing a wax seal she did not recognize. "Mother, where are we going?" Thomas asked, skipping beside her. "To see Master Giles Blackburn, the magistrate's clerk," she replied, her voice soft but determined. "He has news of your great-uncle Edmund." Great-uncle Edmund was a man neither Olivia nor Thomas had ever met, a distant relative of Robert's who had left the village decades ago after a bitter dispute with his family. The letter, which Olivia had needed the parish priest to read to her, stated that Edmund had died without direct heirs and had left his property to Robert, or, in the event of Robert's death, to his widow and child. The clerk's office occupied a small corner of the magistrate's house, the only stone building in the village besides the church. Olivia knocked timidly, conscious of the mud on her worn leather shoes and the patches on Thomas's small tunic. "Enter," called a nasal voice from within. Master Blackburn sat behind a desk cluttered with parchment, his fingers stained with ink, and his thin lips pressed into a permanent frown. He looked up at Olivia with poorly concealed disdain. "You are the widow Rose?" "I am," Olivia curtsied, as was expected when addressing a man of higher station, even one as minor as a clerk. "Your husband's uncle has left you his farm in the North Field. The property includes a cottage and 3 acres. He slid a document across the desk. "It has been abandoned these past 5 years since Edmund Rose left for London. The taxes owed amount to 10 silver coins." Olivia's heart sank. 10 silver coins might as well have been a king's ransom to her. Since Robert's death, she had supported herself and Thomas by spinning wool and occasionally helping the midwife, but her earnings barely kept food in their bellies. I have not such a sum," she admitted. The clerk's eyebrows rose. "Then the property reverts to the lord of the manor. Unless—" He paused, his eyes traveling down to the exposed skin at her neckline before meeting her gaze again. "Unless you can find the coins before Michaelmas. That gives you 1 month." Olivia pulled her tattered shawl tighter across her chest, her cheeks burning with humiliation. "May I at least see this inheritance before it is taken from me?" Master Blackburn shrugged. "The property is yours by right until the taxes are paid or the deadline passes. Do as you wish." Outside, Olivia knelt before Thomas, brushing a smudge of dirt from his cheek. "Would you like to see the farm your great-uncle left us? It might be nothing, but perhaps there is something there we could sell to pay the taxes." Thomas nodded eagerly, always ready for an adventure. The North Field lay at the edge of the village lands, where the cultivated fields gave way to the wild forest beyond. As Olivia and Thomas crested the hill, the farm came into view, and her heart sank further. The cottage was little more than a ruin, with half the roof caved in and the stone walls crumbling in places. The small garden was overrun with weeds, and the single apple tree in the yard was gnarled and bare despite the spring season. "Is this our new home, Mother?" Thomas asked, his young face falling at the sight. "No, my love," Olivia sighed. "We could never afford to keep it, but let us explore it anyway. Perhaps we will find something of value." As they approached, a bark echoed from behind the cottage, and a large gray hound emerged, thin and mangy, but with intelligent eyes. Thomas immediately hid behind his mother's skirts. "Hush now," Olivia said gently to both boy and dog. "He is just as afraid as you are." The dog stopped several paces away, watching them warily, but without aggression. Olivia reached into her small pouch and pulled out a crust of bread she had saved from their morning meal. She tossed it toward the animal, who sniffed it cautiously before gobbling it down.
"See?
"He is hungry, not mean," Olivia assured Thomas. The boy ventured out from behind her, his natural curiosity overcoming his fear. "What is his name?" "I do not know. Perhaps he was your great-uncle's dog, left behind when he went to London." Olivia approached the cottage door, which hung crookedly on one hinge. "Let us see what is inside." The interior was dark and musty, with cobwebs draping the corners and dust coating every surface. A table and stool lay overturned in one corner, and a simple bed frame, its straw mattress long rotted away, occupied another. A stone hearth, cold and filled with old ashes, dominated the far wall. "There is nothing here, Mother," Thomas said, disappointed. "Perhaps not," Olivia agreed, but something caught her eye, an old chest tucked beneath the remains of the bed. She knelt and pulled it out, finding it locked. "I wonder what might be in here." "Can we break it open?" Thomas asked excitedly. "No, that would not be right. There must be a key somewhere." Olivia glanced around the single room. "Help me look, Thomas." They searched the cottage thoroughly, but found no key. The dog, who had followed them inside, watched their efforts with apparent interest. As they prepared to leave, defeated, the animal trotted to the hearth and began pawing at the ashes, whining softly. "What has he found?" Thomas asked, moving closer. Olivia joined him, brushing aside the cold ashes where the dog was digging. Her fingers struck something metal, a small iron key, blackened with soot but intact. "Could it be?" she whispered, hope fluttering in her chest. The key fit the chest perfectly. Inside, they found several items: a leather-bound journal, a map with markings she could not understand, and a small portrait of a stern-faced man who bore a faint resemblance to her late husband. No coins or valuables, nothing that would help pay the taxes. "Let us take these things home," Olivia decided. "Perhaps the priest can read the journal to us." As they left the cottage, the dog followed. Thomas named him Shadow for his gray coat and the way he trailed silently behind them. Back in their small rented room in the village, Olivia examined the journal by candlelight after Thomas had fallen asleep. Though she could not read the words, she recognized numbers and dates, and there were sketches throughout, drawings of the cottage, the land, and what appeared to be a garden layout. The next morning, she took the journal to Father Michael, the elderly priest who had taught her husband to read and write years ago. "This belonged to Edmund Rose?" Father Michael asked, adjusting his spectacles as he turned the pages. "Interesting. It seems he was keeping detailed records of his garden." "His garden? But it was nothing but weeds when we saw it yesterday." "According to this, he was growing herbs and plants for medicines. He writes about experiments, remedies he created." The priest's bushy eyebrows rose. "Your great-uncle by marriage might have been what some would call a healer, or others might call a witch." Olivia's blood ran cold. "But that is dangerous." "Indeed. Perhaps that is why he left so suddenly." Father Michael continued reading. "There is more here. It seems he believed there was something valuable on his land, something hidden." "Treasure?" Olivia asked, hope kindling again. "He does not say directly. He writes of ensuring it remains untouched and protecting what must not be found. Very cryptic." The priest closed the journal. "Be careful, child. If there is something of value there, others might know of it too." Olivia returned to her room, her mind racing. If there truly was something valuable hidden at the farm, it could save her and Thomas from poverty. But where to look? The cottage had revealed nothing but the journal and map. The map. She unrolled it on the floor, studying the markings. It showed the cottage and surrounding land, but with symbols she did not understand scattered across it. One mark in particular, an X in the center of what must be the garden, caught her attention. "The garden," she whispered. "We must dig in the garden." The next day, Olivia borrowed a spade from a sympathetic neighbor and took Thomas back to the farm. Shadow was waiting for them, his tail wagging in greeting. The dog seemed healthier already, having followed them home and been fed scraps from their meager table. The garden was a tangle of weeds and thorny brambles that took hours to clear. By midday, Olivia's hands were scratched and bleeding, but she had exposed enough soil to begin digging where she believed the X on the map indicated. "Mother, look," Thomas called. He was crouched by the edge of the garden, where Shadow was digging frantically at the base of a large stone. "Not now, Thomas. I must dig here where the map shows." But the boy was insistent, and Shadow's whining grew more urgent. Sighing, Olivia went to investigate. The dog had uncovered something, a small metal object embedded in the soil. "It is a handle," she realized, brushing away more dirt. It was attached to what felt like a wooden trapdoor, hidden beneath the earth and stone. With trembling hands, Olivia pulled on the handle. The door resisted, then gave way with a groan of protesting hinges. Below, stone steps descended into darkness. "Stay here, Thomas," she instructed, her heart pounding. "I will see what is down there." "But, Mother, I want to come too."
"No.
"If I do not return shortly, run to the village for help." The steps led to a small chamber carved from the earth and lined with stone. In the dim light filtering from above, Olivia could make out shelves cut into the walls, holding glass bottles and clay pots. A wooden table stood in the center, covered with unfamiliar implements, mortars and pestles, small knives, and dried herbs hanging from the ceiling. "A healer's workshop," she murmured, understanding. This must be where Edmund had prepared his remedies, hidden from suspicious eyes. But there was something else, a small iron-bound chest similar to the one in the cottage, but larger. This one was not locked. Inside, Olivia gasped at what she found. Packets of dried herbs labeled in careful handwriting, small bottles of oils and tinctures, and beneath these, coins. Not just 10 silver coins, but at least 50, along with several pieces of jewelry that gleamed even in the weak light. Hands shaking, Olivia took 10 silver coins, enough to pay the taxes, and closed the chest. She would return for the rest once she had secured her claim to the property. As she climbed back into the sunlight, she found Thomas and Shadow waiting anxiously. "Did you find anything, Mother?" the boy asked. "Yes, my love. I believe we can keep this farm after all." She knelt and hugged him tightly, tears of relief welling in her eyes. But their moment of joy was interrupted by the sound of approaching hoofbeats. A rider appeared at the edge of the property, a well-dressed man on a fine horse, flanked by 2 servants. Olivia recognized him immediately. George Bainbridge, the wealthiest merchant in the village, and a man known for his ruthless business dealings. "Widow Rose," he called, dismounting smoothly. "I heard you had come into a troublesome inheritance." Olivia quickly tucked the coins into her pocket. "Good day, Master Bainbridge. What brings you to this humble place?" Neighborly concern. His smile did not reach his eyes. "This property borders my own lands, and I have had my eye on it for some time. When I heard poor Edmund had died and left it to you, I thought I might make you an offer. 10 silver coins, enough to cover the taxes, and you sign the deed over to me today." Olivia's grip tightened on Thomas's shoulder. "That is kind, but I believe I will keep the farm." George Bainbridge's smile faded. "Be sensible, woman. What do you know of farming? How will you repair that cottage or clear these fields? A widow with a young child has no business attempting such work. Nevertheless, it is my inheritance and my decision." The merchant's eyes narrowed. "I understand Edmund was engaged in unusual activities here. Some might call them suspicious, even heretical." The threat was unmistakable. Accusations of witchcraft or heresy could destroy her, regardless of their truth. "My great-uncle was a healer," Thomas piped up unexpectedly. "He helped people." Bainbridge glanced down at the boy with contempt. "Children should not speak of matters they do not understand." "We thank you for your offer," Olivia said firmly, "but we must decline." As Bainbridge and his men rode away, his parting words hung ominously in the air. Consider carefully, Widow Rose. This offer will not remain open indefinitely. That night, back in their village room, Olivia studied the journal again with new understanding. Edmund had been more than a simple healer. He had been a skilled herbalist whose remedies were sought by people from surrounding villages and even nobles from the nearby town. His notes detailed treatments for everything from fever to wounds that would not heal, recipes for tinctures, and salves that brought high prices from those who could afford them. But there was more. Hidden among the medicinal notes were references to the treasure and what was entrusted to me. On the final pages, Edmund had written what appeared to be a confession. I, Edmund Rose, having served Lord Henry Westfield faithfully as his personal physician for 20 years, was entrusted with his most valuable possessions when he feared his enemies would seize them. I have kept my oath to protect them until his son comes of age. If I do not survive to see that day, may whoever reads this understand the gravity of this trust. The full treasure lies where none would think to look, beneath the ancient oak that marks the northern boundary of my land. May God forgive me for the deception I have practiced. Olivia's hands trembled as she read the passage. Lord Westfield had been a powerful nobleman whose lands bordered their village, but he had died in disgrace 15 years ago, accused of treason against the king. His properties had been confiscated, his family scattered. If Edmund had hidden Westfield's treasures, "We must find the ancient oak," she whispered. The next day, Olivia paid the taxes on the farm, shocking Master Blackburn with her ability to produce the required coins. With the property now legally hers, she and Thomas, along with Shadow, moved their few possessions to the cottage. Though half the roof was missing, one room remained dry enough to serve as shelter until repairs could be made. As they settled in, Olivia could not help but notice unusual activity around the property. Riders passed on the road more frequently than seemed natural for such a remote location. Twice, she spotted men watching from the edge of the woods, only to disappear when she looked directly at them. Master Bainbridge will not give up easily, she told Thomas as they prepared a simple supper over a small fire. We must find the oak tree and whatever is hidden there before he finds a way to take this land from us. The northern boundary of the property was marked by a stream that separated Edmund's farm from what had once been Westfield lands, now claimed by the crown. Along this boundary stood several oak trees, but one was notably larger and older than the rest, its massive trunk suggesting centuries of growth. This must be it, Olivia decided, running her hands over the rough bark. But how do we find what is hidden? Thomas, who had been circling the tree with Shadow, called out excitedly, "Mother!" The dog found something. Shadow was pawing at an exposed root, whining softly. As Olivia joined them, she saw what had caught the animal's attention, a small metal plate embedded in the wood, nearly invisible beneath layers of moss and lichen. Carefully, she scraped away the growth until she could make out an engraved coat of arms, the Westfield family crest. "We found it," she breathed. "But how do we open it?" The answer came from an unexpected source. As dusk fell and they prepared to return to the cottage, the sound of approaching horses put Olivia on alert. She hurried Thomas inside, but instead of Bainbridge or his men, a lone rider appeared. A young man, richly dressed but travel-worn, leading a second horse laden with bags. "I seek Edmund Rose," he called, reining in his mount. Olivia stepped forward cautiously. "Edmund Rose has passed on. I am his niece by marriage, Olivia Rose." The young man dismounted, revealing himself to be perhaps 25, with a handsome face marked by weariness and wariness. "My name is Gregory Bentley. I was sent by Lady Westfield to speak with Edmund about a matter of great importance." Olivia's breath caught. Lady Westfield? The wife of Lord Henry? His widow, yes. Gregory's eyes narrowed. "How much do you know of your uncle's connection to the Westfield family?" "Only what I have read in his journal. That he was Lord Westfield's physician, and that he was entrusted with something valuable." Gregory studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Lady Westfield sent me because her son has finally been granted a royal pardon and the restoration of his titles. She believed Edmund might have safeguarded certain items during the family's troubles. We found a marking on an oak tree at the northern boundary," Olivia admitted. But we do not know how to access what might be hidden there. Relief washed over Gregory's face. Then it still exists. I can help you. Lady Westfield gave me instructions and a key that Edmund would have recognized. The next morning, Gregory, Olivia, and Thomas returned to the ancient oak. Gregory produced a small metal object from a pouch at his belt, not a key in the traditional sense, but a strangely shaped tool. He inserted it into an almost invisible slot beneath the Westfield crest and turned it smoothly. A section of the tree's trunk swung open like a door, revealing a hollow space within. The tree has been dead for decades, Gregory explained. Edmund hollowed it out and created this hiding place. Inside the hollow trunk stood a medium-sized chest, ornately decorated with gold filigree and precious stones. Gregory carefully removed it and set it on the ground. This contains the Westfield family jewels and important documents proving ownership of their lands, he explained. When Lord Henry was accused of treason, he feared everything would be confiscated. He entrusted these to Edmund, who had saved his life during a fever years earlier. And now they can be returned to their rightful owners, Olivia said, smiling at the thought of a family restored to their position, much as she hoped to restore her own small family's security. Yes. Gregory hesitated. Lady Westfield instructed me to reward whoever helped recover these items. The reward is substantial, enough to rebuild this farm and live comfortably for many years. Tears sprang to Olivia's eyes. We would be most grateful. But their conversation was interrupted by angry shouts. George Bainbridge and 4 armed men emerged from the trees, advancing quickly. I knew you were hiding something, Widow Rose, Bainbridge called, his face twisted with greed. Step away from that chest. Gregory moved protectively in front of Olivia and Thomas. This property and everything on it belongs to Mistress Rose. You have no right to be here. I have every right, Bainbridge sneered. That chest contains stolen goods, treasures that should have been surrendered to the crown years ago. As a loyal subject, it is my duty to seize it. Your loyalty extends only to your own purse, Gregory retorted. This chest contains the legal property of the Westfield family, now pardoned by His Majesty King Edward himself. Bainbridge faltered slightly at this information but pressed on. Regardless, the widow acquired this farm through suspicious means. I have witnesses who will testify that she practices witchcraft, just like her uncle before her. Shadow, who had been watching the confrontation warily, suddenly lunged forward with a growl, placing himself between the approaching men and his new family. The unexpected aggression from the previously gentle dog caused Bainbridge's men to step back in alarm. Call off your beast, Bainbridge demanded. Olivia stood straighter, emboldened by Gregory's presence and Shadow's protection. I will not. This is my property, legally inherited, and with the taxes paid in full. You are trespassing, Master Bainbridge. And, Gregory added with quiet authority, any action against Mistress Rose or attempt to seize these Westfield heirlooms will be reported directly to the King's Justice. I ride under Lady Westfield's authority, which now carries the full weight of royal approval. The threat of royal intervention was enough to make even Bainbridge reconsider. With a final venomous glare, he ordered his men to withdraw. This is not over, Widow Rose, he called as they departed. Country folk have long memories when it comes to those who consort with witchcraft and treason. When they were gone, Olivia's legs nearly gave way with relief. Gregory steadied her with a gentle hand on her arm. He will cause more trouble, she said worriedly. Perhaps, Gregory agreed, but not for long. When I return to Lady Westfield with these heirlooms, I will inform her of your situation. The Westfields owe Edmund Rose, and now you, a great debt. Their protection will ensure your safety. 3 days later, as Olivia and Thomas worked to clear the overgrown garden with Shadow lying contentedly nearby, they heard the now familiar sound of Gregory's horse approaching. This time, he was accompanied by an elegant carriage bearing the restored Westfield crest. Lady Westfield wished to thank you personally, Gregory explained as he helped an elderly but still regal woman descend from the carriage. Lady Westfield surveyed the humble farm with kind eyes. So this is where Edmund spent his final years. He was a loyal friend when loyalty was a dangerous commodity. He left a legacy of healing, Olivia said, curtsying deeply. His journals are filled with remedies and knowledge that could help many people. Just like Edmund to think of helping others even in exile. Lady Westfield smiled. My son has been restored to his rightful place, thanks in no small part to the documents preserved in that chest. We would like to express our gratitude. From the carriage, servants brought forth several items. A chest containing enough gold coins to completely rebuild the farm and establish a comfortable living, a document naming Olivia as under the official protection of the Westfield family, and a third item that brought tears to Olivia's eyes, a small, leather-bound book. Gregory tells me you cannot read, Lady Westfield said gently. This is a primer, similar to what noblewomen use to teach their children. Gregory has agreed to remain in the village for a time to help you learn and to assist with the restoration of your farm. Gregory, standing nearby, smiled warmly at Olivia. If that is acceptable to you, Mistress Rose. More than acceptable, Olivia replied, her cheeks coloring slightly. In the months that followed, the farm underwent a transformation. The cottage was rebuilt, stronger and larger than before. The underground chamber became a proper still room where Olivia, guided by Edmund's journals, began preparing the healing remedies that had been his legacy. Thomas thrived in their new home, with Shadow always at his side. And Gregory, having completed his duty to the Westfields, found reasons to extend his stay indefinitely. Word spread through the surrounding villages of the gentle healer at the Rose farm, whose remedies eased pain and cured ailments that had defeated other treatments. Some whispered that she had inherited more than land from her mysterious uncle, but such rumors were quickly silenced by the protective shadow of the Westfield family. George Bainbridge eventually left the village after a series of failed business ventures, his reputation tarnished by the revelation that he had attempted to seize property under royal protection. 1 year to the day after Olivia had first received news of her inheritance, she stood in the garden that had once concealed so many secrets. Now it bloomed with medicinal herbs and flowers, a testament to new beginnings rising from forgotten places. Thomas ran through the rows of plants, laughing as Shadow chased him playfully. From the cottage doorway, Gregory watched them with affection. I received a letter from Lady Westfield today, he said, joining Olivia among the herbs. She asks when I plan to return to her service. Olivia's heart sank. And what did you tell her? That I have found a new purpose here. Gregory took her hand in his. If you will have me. Olivia looked around at the thriving farm that had once seemed worthless, at the garden where she had dug and discovered not just material treasure, but a future filled with purpose and hope. Her gaze returned to Gregory's face, seeing there a reflection of the same joy she felt. Yes, she answered simply. I believe I will. And so the abandoned farm that Olivia Rose had purchased for 10 silver coins, the inheritance that had seemed more burden than blessing, became the foundation of a new life, built on hidden treasures both material and immeasurable.